Welcome into the Sports Podcast, your go-to Kentucky basketball podcast on the Podcast Network. I'm Coach Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. Very excited to be joined once again by the one and only Shawn Smith. Shawn, how?
I am warm. I'm fantastic, and warm's probably the most important part of that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we need to start, obviously, because it's been Snowmageddon. Man, what a dud that was! Gosh, I was a sucker. God, I got bought into it. I was so excited. The meteorologist talking. Oh, it's going to be 2 feet of snow. Oh, guys, you better go buy everything from the grocery store and hunker down because you will not be able to see the light of day forever. I'll let you know when you can come out of your house. 4 inches in Lexington. 6 inches in Shelbyville where I am. It was like, bro, come on, man. What an absolute dud. So we just built this house 2023 in Shelbyville. Don't have a generator. Don't have a basement. So we're kind of like, if we have the opportunity to go, the in-laws have a lot of space to work with. And it was like, hey, if we're going to get stuck and there's an opportunity for the power to go out, there's much more space to operate and just kind of, be by people or whatever. You never know how long we're going to be locked in the house. So screw it. Let's just go hang out with the in-laws. And then just like to wake up on Sunday morning and be like, okay, well, there better be a pretty darn massive response here because there's like an inch on the ground. And then it ends up being just kind of, it is what it is. It was like, a little disappointed. I was personally expecting a little bit more. I like snow. I like kind of just the conditions that come with all this. So I don't know about you. Are you disappointed in how Snowmageddon, quote unquote, unfolded?
Maybe in the expected amounts and what we actually got, but I've not been disappointed in the slowdown that I've got to experience the last couple of days. That's been kind of nice. I did go buy everything from the grocery store, and I did, in fact, eat everything from the grocery store. So that's probably the worst part about that's the good and the bad of the last 3 days. But the ice and things like where I am and things has been pretty rough. But for the most part, it has been a dud, right? When you're talking 12 to 14 inches of snow, and I kept waiting for the 5 and 6 to show up, and it never came.
And it's the worst case scenario because there's somebody in the comments talking, stop complaining. Thank God you don't have 3 inches of ice. Yeah, that's kind of my point. It's like it was the worst case of the sleet and the ice and kind of ruining the it's sledding and building snowmen and all of the the fun things that can come with a ton of snow. Instead, it's like, it's -5 feel outside and there's a ton of ice and just a little bit of snow. Just more, it's more of an inconvenient time than it is a joyous winter wonderland outside. That's the point I'm trying to make. I was just disappointed that for the first time in my life, as long as I can remember, they were talking 22 inches of snow because there wasn't going to be the ice and all the other crap that comes with it. So yeah, I didn't know if I made my point clear, but I was just disappointed I didn't get the massive winter. I did shovel today. Have you shoveled yet, Shawn?
It's solid ice. I'm in Pulaski County. It's solid ice. It was ice more than snow. So no, I have not shoveled.
Yeah, well, this is a great question. RPG, will you be heading to Nash Vegas? I don't know. Actually, Steven and I, behind the camera right now, we still, as of 7-11 right now, we do not know if we'll be able to make it to Nashville tomorrow because apparently it's horrible in Nashville. And we also don't want to leave where things are somewhat okay here for where things are apparently just horrible down there, by campus. Tyler Thompson lives down there and has been sending us a bunch of pictures from Vandy's campus. And apparently the team left earlier today, got there as far as we know, got there tonight. So we think the game is still on schedule through 9 o'clock, scheduled for 9 o'clock tomorrow night, but not a total 100% certainty. What happens if everything freezes over again tonight and it's an absolute skating rink tomorrow, like will they keep the game moving forward as originally scheduled? I don't know. Very, very much up in the air. I hope that we're able to go, but it's not looking great, so we will see. But before we get to that, Shawn, a 5-game winning streak for the Kentucky Wildcats, one that if you were to tell me that they would rattle off all these wins after that 9-6 start, I would probably tell you that you were a big fat liar, but they did. 5 straight wins. They haven't all been the prettiest things in the world, but wins are wins are wins, and we are not going to be complaining about that as the resume is kind of slowly but surely starting to come together a little bit, and you have a massive opportunity this week to stack a couple of more quad ones is your favorite thing in the world.
Yeah, I don't think that any of us just 2 weeks ago saw a 5-game winning streak at any point for Kentucky in league play. I don't know if we saw it in December really coming at any point for this team, but hey, they found a way. And look, sustaining success has to be the talking point for us, because there at halftime of the LSU game just a couple of weeks ago, we were starting to look down the kind of the pike at something that was going to turn to be 2-6 possible, the way that they were playing, and it was not going to set them up for success. And we were going to have to begin to have the conversation of, is this team an NCAA tournament team? Is it not? Like, what are they going to have to do to get in? They have survived that. They have improved themselves. They put themselves in position to probably be one of the more successful teams in college basketball over the last couple of weeks. And when you see that Tennessee can go and win at places that where Kentucky started a league playoff with a poor performance at Alabama, you're starting to find a little bit of something to hang your hat on with this Kentucky team. But hey, like the defensive end of the floor, holding Ole Miss to 63 and just being efficient and finding ways to win. You got Otega Oweh with another big night. Just the last couple of weeks have really flipped the script, and you got to give both the players and the staff a ton of credit for surviving. Now they enter a tough stretch now that's really going to test them, and we're really going to find out if this is something that can be sustainable going into February. But hey, for what they've done the last 2 weeks, Shaq, like this has put themselves in position now for some positivity, which is what was missing for the first 2 months of the season. But to have the last couple of weeks, it's been a really good refresher for Kentucky basketball. Still areas that they got to get better at and sustain to be able to keep doing this. But hey, 5-0 in league play and just a game out, not a whole lot to complain about.
Yeah, you're sitting tied for second place right now in the SEC when we were sitting there at 0-2 going, like, the bubble is very real. Like, the resume, there was no resume. It was like when Cal arrived in Fayetteville, said, I talked to my team. There is no team. It, like, that was how we were with this team's resume. It was totally justified. Like, it was a bad product, a bad basketball team in real time. And to their credit, like the way Denzel Aberdeen kind of just totally shook up his reputation and what he was known in his identity. And it kind of became a like, hey, I am a guy that I can put the team on my back and take games over late and lead a team to victory. Otega Oweh, all the questions we had about him to start the season and just kind of the motor and the body language and all those things kind of looking like the all SEC preseason SEC player of the year guy that we thought he was going to be. Just it felt like everything for those two players especially clicked finally. And then everything else, Colin Chandler hitting big shots as we saw against Ole Miss, a ton of shots in the game before against Texas. And, lots of other things at play. Jasper stepping up and scoring baskets. Andrei Yelovich, I like what he's been providing. Somebody stepping up when the time comes. But I've loved their ability to just find ways to win in these 2 games, especially not counting the 3 before that, but just this past week, their ability to win games that they just had to. Those were the 2 of the weakest games on your schedule. You just had to find ways to win both of those. It didn't matter how pretty it was going to be. You just had to win them, and they did, and they gave themselves a chance to have this conversation, Shawn, of okay, what happens if they go down to Nashville tomorrow and you pull off a win? Okay, well, then you have 6 straight. Now you have another quad 1 added. Now you're on a 6-game winning streak riding down to Fayetteville, a game that we know the revenge factor there. We know how we all felt last year when that head-to-head matchup happened in Kentucky did not answer the bell, and Coach Cal was able to kind of have his pat himself on the back moment. So you can kind of start talking yourselves into these scenarios, and that's a total credit to Mark Pope. That's a total credit to these Wildcats for putting themselves in this position, especially this past week, especially because that it would have been easy to let those two slip. How easy they were on paper.
It absolutely would have. And when you're talking about, who they've beaten, it was a stretch of the schedule that a few weeks ago we talked about where they could find some success, but we didn't know how confident we were in a road win at Knoxville, right? We didn't know how confident we were if even at the moment of going on the road and beating LSU. But like the Texas win, that's a Texas team that had beaten Alabama and Vanderbilt prior to that, and then comes off and beats Georgia right after that. You get a win against them. So like you're finding ways to beat teams that are having success themselves, and not just beat Georgia, but like an impressive win in that one against a team that had been playing some of the best basketball and not only the SEC, but in college basketball in recent weeks. So you're finding ways to beat teams now. You're building something, and now you get really tested this week. You got 2 tests away from home to really find out about how far you've come over the last few weeks. Are you ready to take that next step and kind of be pushing back towards, obviously they're moving up in the net and things like it's starting to trend in the right direction. I see the green arrow, which had been missing for a while when it came to where they were, but they've built a resume the last few weeks. They got 3 quad 1 wins and in a couple of opportunities coming up, but hey, They've proven me wrong, because there a couple of weeks ago I was ready to kind of put the nail in the coffin just because of the way that they were looking together on the floor. But they found a way, and you're talking about a 9-point win, and what are some of the biggest things that have shifted? But Jasper Johnson's able to go in and make 3 perimeter jumpers. That's 9 points. That's something that they weren't getting a month ago. That in that game proves to be the difference maker, right? You're getting consistent Otega Owe for the last month. You're getting solid play out of Denzel Aberdeen. Colin Chandler's making perimeter jumpers. Like, just the blueprint for success, you're starting to see some consistency from some guys, Jack, that you weren't seeing 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And I think that's a big adjustment that Kentucky's been able to get, as some guys is really locked in. Now, obviously, you're down more than what you were with no Cam Williams now, but they're finding a way. And that's such a key thing that was missing. They weren't finding a way at all a few weeks ago. Now they're just finding ways to win.
And that's where I'm going to ask you for the next kind of trending it the next way. But Cam Williams goes down, breaks his foot, a guy that has been so consistent and such a valuable piece that you can just trust. Like, hey, if you're not making a 3, I trust you to go get a stop. If you're not getting a stop, I trust you to finish around the rim. Find some type of way to impact winning. That's what Cam Williams' reputation became. Now he breaks his foot, undergoes surgery. His dad told us in an interview that the goal post-surgery was to, come back before the end of the season. I would love to see Cam Williams somehow, pull off his inner Willis Reed coming out of the tunnel there in SEC tournament in Nashville or an NCAA tournament, but not somebody, Sean, that we can lean on heavily the rest of the way. Not somebody that we can, find to be a consistent contributor the rest of the way. Somebody else is going to have to step up to get us to that miraculous moment at the end of the season, if it's possible. For Jasper in this stretch since then to step up the way he has, and even before when, Tennessee and all that, Jasper is a guy that you're going to need one way or the other. We already knew we were going to need him post Jalen Lowe. Now you're sure as heck going to need him now post Cam Williams. Trent Noah got some run, hit a big shot in this most recent one against Ole Miss. How do you see that kind of shaken up? Because we haven't gotten the chance to talk since Cam Williams' injury. And do you think that there are enough viable options to kind of weather the storm?
Well, I mean, we talked in December about them needing to shorten the rotation down, and he did. And obviously he was trying to, but when you have 3 guys that are now out of action, your rotation kind of is what it is, right? Like when you're not getting down to the walk-ons or, Braden Hawthorne, a guy that that hasn't seen action, like you're kind of at a point where, all right, now we need all of you. And your roles have changed a little bit. You're going to have to play some more. You're seeing more of Andrea Yelovich now. You're seeing Jasper Johnson having to be thrown into action, and you're seeing him perform and make shots, which was all along, Jack, was the biggest talking point that we had about him. If he was going to make an impact in year one, it was, can he make shots for Kentucky? He's doing that in some of the biggest moments. He's had big halves at Tennessee. He's had big games and hit big shots against Ole Miss. And whether it comes in the first half or the second half, the shots are going in, and it's giving Kentucky something. You're seeing, Yelovich find something there. So it's tough because we know deep down that they needed all three of those guys to kind of scratch that ceiling that maybe we had put in front of them, or maybe even the one that had kind of developed over the course of the season. We knew that they needed those three. But whatever the ceiling is without them, I still believe it can be pretty successful and high for them when it comes to becoming an NCAA tournament team, and a team that maybe with the right matchups can win a game or two in the NCAA tournament. I mean, right now they're right there a game out in the league. So with being shorthanded, they've done enough to get them to this point. This week right here is going to really tell the tale, though. When you're going to these two buildings, these two environments, against these two teams, you're going to find out a lot about not just Kentucky, but what this version of Kentucky is. They're going to be tested a little differently than they have in recent weeks. But Jack, I think the biggest talking point for me is, would we be having a little bit different conversations, even though the conversations have shifted to a more positive? How different would the conversation be if they hadn't have just maybe gave away that game against Missouri a few weeks ago? And then we're talking a 6-game winning streak, and then only one loss dating back to before Indiana.
Well, that one and North Carolina. Think of how much differently we'd think of this team with those two wins on our resume and everything else kind of, chalky losses elsewhere. There weren't very many other ones that you could just look at and go totally inexcusable. Like that, it would be a pretty on paper reasonable resume without those two losses. And you flip it the other direction. I mean, then without Missouri, you are in sole position of possession of the SEC lead, tied for it, and kind of controlling your own destiny the rest of the way. I do wonder how much we're going to be looking back at those two games, especially, and going, man, what could have been with SEC tournament seeding, but also NCAA tournament season.
Yeah, those are two that you look at, because I mean that's early December, but I mean since December 9th, they've not lost a lot of games when it comes down to it. I mean, obviously they lost the first two in league play, and I know Alabama did not look good, and we've seen Alabama have their trouble and stuff in recent games and things. But you've seen Kentucky kind of, shift the tide, and no pun intended there, but in their favor in league play. But I just think it's a strong response for Mark Pope. I think it's a strong response from the guys in that locker room, because it would have been easy to kind of just win one, lose one, win one, lose a couple in a row. But finding a way to build some type of winning streak and to do it, in league play. And I know that the schedule hasn't been the most difficult, and they've had some favorable matchups at Rupp Arena, but Jack, they were losing those games just a few weeks ago. Like, they lost the Missouri game at Rupp, and that's one that they should have won. So finding a way to hold on to leads late, to not get down big in the first half of some games, and then just execute and play possession by possession basketball with a couple of calls that actually went against you in certain moments, and finding a way to survive and hold on and win. Like that's the sign of teams getting better. And a lot of it is due to this team has now established somewhat of an identity within itself, and more so the identity within its rotation and where guys are playing minutes. And some guys still got to be better and be more consistent. But overall, 5-game winning streak and a great opportunity tomorrow night to really kind of establish, like, hey, now we're on a 6-game winning streak and we've gone on the road and beat Vanderbilt. In the midst of this winning streak, you've gone on the road and beat Tennessee. Like you've put something together here to where I think people have to change the conversation maybe nationally to, where is Kentucky in the push for the SEC regular season title? Like, there's some tough games coming up, but you're kind of controlling it right now. And what better week to do it than playing these two opponents that you're going to face this week?
There were a lot of questions in the chat, and we're going to do find our Parlour Pizza question of the day on KS board. Got a Q&A going. We'll go run through that, probably the 30-minute mark. We're going to go through and answer a ton of questions about the upcoming matchups, kind of big picture questions, recruiting questions, all that. So, go subscribe to KSR Plus, because that's where we're going to get the majority of our questions. But just generally speaking, a lot of question about Jaden Quaintance and what is going on with him. No, he's not going to be playing. We'll get that confirmed here tonight at the SEC availability report when that drops at 8:15. But we are, and I don't think it's necessary right now to make a big deal about kind of a game by game updates on JQ. Like, we are closer to week with him, and just waiting for the first major update of Jaden has returned to practice before we're concerned about whether or not he's playing actual games for Kentucky right now. The knee swelling is very real. Like, that is a thing that they're trying to get figured out. I think that's been pretty frustrating internally. I think it's been frustrating on Jaden's side. It's been frustrating to people close to Jaden. It's like, we were just making very real progress. Why have we kind of stalled out a little bit in that regard? And so I think they're trying to get that figured out and decide what are short-term solutions. There are ways to get him back on the floor sooner rather than later, but they're not permanent solutions that are very important to them, as well as the dude's gonna be going to the draft. He will be drafted in June. Like, there's no scenario where he returns to Kentucky next season. Like, the rest of the runway is right now for this coming season. And there is something to be said about making sure that whatever they do right now puts him in that position for the end of the season and the postseason. So they're navigating all of those options and figuring out what the best way is. So I don't think that there is a clear answer as things stand right now about whether Jaden plays, next week after that. Like, I would just kind of hit pause, say he's out indefinitely as they try to figure that out. But goodness gracious, how valuable is Malachi Moreno, and how well he's playing and being the reliable, consistent force that he has been inside, and BG not being the guy that we thought he was going to be, could be taking the jump that people internally thought he could make. Just kind of putting all of your chips into the Malachi Moreno basket, Shawn, and how well he has played, and somebody that you can really lean on to run the offense, and kind of being Amari Williams Jr. I think that's it's very, very cool to see the way he has kind of stepped into that role as early as he has, because it takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of faith in him as a player to be able to run the offense that Mark Pope wants him to, and as well as executing it as we wait for JQ. Thank goodness for Malachi Moreno, Shawn.
Yeah, I mean, he's been excellent, and for him, his excellence is probably judged a little bit differently, because I don't know if any of us, including Malachi, thought he was going to be playing the role that he's had to play for Kentucky. But the development on the fly, the getting better game to game, are there still areas to his game that he has to get better at moving forward? Yes. And that will come. The more that he plays, the more experience that he gains. And this is valuable experience, not just for this season, but for this program moving forward at that position, because there's been a lot of pressure put on him to, I still believe to this point, be Kentucky's most consistent piece. Has he been their best player? No, but I believe from beginning till now, he's the one, Jack, that I don't think that we've just pulled apart the flaws as much, because of just the impact that he's made on both ends of the floor. And I know offensively they've had to make some adjustments. They've had to do some things that maybe going into the year that they didn't think they were going to have to do. This team, obviously, up until this stretch, did not make threes consistently at more than one spot on the floor. But I know the Texas game, they only made 5, but they get back to making 8. And they've shown that they can reach that double-digit number. The attempts were up the last game. But just overall, what Malachi's presence has just been a steady piece. And that's honestly what Kentucky needed, Jack, at a spot where BG's effort wasn't there for 6 weeks. Jaden Quaintance wasn't available. Then he's available. But through it all, Malachi remained steady and consistent. And that's probably been the biggest thing for Kentucky all season on its interior, because he's been the most consistent piece that they've had, which has probably steadied the ship somewhat for this team. But, and to give BG some credit too, like BG's found the effort and is found in a way, even in his role, to make an impact when just a month ago, Jack, I don't think any of us wanted to see Brandon Garrison check into a basketball game again. So it is what it is.
Although there are moments.
There are moments.
There are moments.
There's
every game, every single game, there are.
What are you doing?
But to his credit, he has responded. It's a roller coaster. You got to know when you're getting on the roller coaster that you're riding it, and you got to get to the finish line, one way or the other. It doesn't make it always fun or easy going. He does make it easy on you all.
Yeah, some of them include loops, and some of them go in reverse, and this roller coaster sometimes decides to do that. Now.
It's like one of those rides that you're going up the hill, and you're like, whoa, 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 and then it's like it just randomly drops back. You're like, oh wait, where'd that come from? Yeah,
but
that's the BG experience.
I will say this though, at one point he was the leading guy and was starting games and was playing the bulk of minutes, and things were going like this. Now you're not having to do that. Like, so now it's kind of, what are you giving me? Are we getting the effort? Are we getting a nice 12 to 13 minute stretch out of you? I mean, he's having to play, but I mean, this season has had so many twists and turns, right? So many twists and turns. It's still only January 26th. There's still a lot of season left. To find a 5-game winning streak in the midst of everything that we have talked about over the last 3 months, I didn't see it coming. But now, I don't know if you're like me, but I'm actually starting, when I turn on the TV, I have a feeling Kentucky's going to win. And I didn't have that a few weeks ago. Now I kind of expect them to win. Now this week's going to really test me, because I don't know, because this one's just different. You're going to Vandy, you're going to Arkansas, and I think you need the first one. You got to get the first one, just because I think Saturday is just going to be a tough one.
And man, Vandy's just so weird, because it did feel like they were out kicking their coverage. That 16-0 start, it was like when they got to 10-0, it was like, they're frauds. But then as they kept winning and they got it to 16, it was like, well, all right. Well, then maybe we're the wrong ones. Maybe. And then they lose 3 straight. And you go, okay, well, now they're reverting back. And then they go to Starkville and beat the crap out of Mississippi State. So I did not want, under any circumstance, I did not want them losing down in Starkville. You did not want them to come into this matchup losing 4 straight, potentially making it 5 straight. Us trying to make it 5 straight. That is a desperate position to be in. I did not want that. So I'm glad that things unfolded the way they did in Starkville. But I still don't know what to think of this Vandy team that is good, potentially very good, but are they great? I still need to see a lot. This could be one that, you can really take advantage. I don't want to say frauds, but they're still not out of the woodwork entirely on fraud watch. Like, they could totally let the bottom fall out the rest of the SEC, and it's still a strong true road win, quad 1 win on your resume, without them being the 16-0 Vandy we thought they were. So it's a good opportunity. It's one that I think is very winnable on Kentucky's side, but man, there's still an opportunity. There's a reason why Bart Torvik has them as 12-point underdogs. I mean, BetMGM, some of the other betting sites, they have it at 6.5. But the advanced analytics do not like Kentucky's chances down in Nashville, Sean.
No, and I think it's important for Kentucky to find a way to go 1-1 this week. Like 1-1 to me this week would be a massive thing for the season and where they're going, the direction they're headed. 0-2 doesn't crush you, but I think they're going to compete in both. I think both are going to be games that in the final 4 or 5 minutes, Jack, Kentucky's going to have chances to pick up wins. But obviously, starting with the one that we got to talk about first is Vandy. I'm tricky on this one too. Like I could see Kentucky going down there having some success and having an opportunity to win it, but I could also see one of those games where Kentucky trails, they trail early, they trail at the half, and then they try to make that push in the second half, but they can't get over the hump in that building like they have at LSU and in Knoxville, because that's the one thing, right? In the last few, they've not flirted with that. They've been at Rupp Arena. Now back on the road, do you see that same thing play out that played out in those 2 road games? That's what Kentucky has to avoid tomorrow night. You cannot get down 15, 16, 17 points in that building.
Yeah, and I don't think my heart can handle another 15, 16, 17 point deficit. Like let's just keep it within arm's reach and play it as necessary. So let's transition into some KS board questions to find our Parlour Pizza question of the day. But before that, message from our friends at Monticello Bank. Source say is excited to partner with Monticello Bank. Enjoy the home court advantage with Monticello Bank's HELOC special use the equity you've built in your home to finance special home projects and improvements. Score big with a fantastic introductory rate and attractive closing costs. With 21 locations in 15 counties across Kentucky, we're just around the corner. So hurry in and speak with one of our mortgage lenders about this limited time offer today. Find us on the web at mbcbank.com. Monticello Bank, where people matter. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Sean, I'd really like a lot of these questions, and we've got to go rapid fire because there are so many of them. I want to get as many of them through as we can. I think you'll like several of them, but Connor R, we'll start with this one. Let's say you were hired as the GM for Kentucky basketball. What are the top 3 things you would do on your first day? Does anything jump out at you in terms of a GM and what that would look like for this program and what would be ideal, knowing this program's current recruiting struggles, maybe some of the roster management questions we had, but what your first day on the job, what would be the first thing you did as GM?
I would think that alleviating as much off the head coach of Kentucky would be probably the starting point, right?
Like, yes,
that is where you got to go, because this job in itself, just finding a way, just trying to win basketball games is hard enough. But now sitting down, you can identify who you want to go after. Like, this guy fits our program. This guy fits his skill set, fits what we want to do offensively. But I don't want to have to be sitting at the table negotiating every single thing outside of where you fit in this program on the court. So someone that can kind of alleviate that's probably priority number 1. If I were the GM of Kentucky, I would be sitting down and trying to find ways that, Mark Pope needs to be involved in conversations, but he doesn't have to be sitting at the head of the table for every one of them, because then it gets difficult to do the other parts of this job. And that's the hard enough part.
I would say nailing value. I feel like we overshot on certain kids and maybe undershot on others. And even as we're talking about, what follow-up deals would look like for next year and trying to bring some of these guys back, I still think we're even undershooting some of them that are very, very valuable that we'll need for next season. So I think just having a pulse in that regard, just having, again, as you said, taking that weight off of Mark Pope's shoulders and letting somebody else take that entirely and know, like, generally speaking, who Pope values the most down to values the least. Like, you can still have that general understanding coming from your head coach, but having the actual value assigned to it in terms of a dollar figure, I just don't think that's something that Pope was, ever a master of. Like, I mean, it's never been in his job description at Utah Valley or BYU or here. Like, this is all new territory for him. And I don't think learning on the fly at a place like this is totally necessary. So I think that is priority number one. And I think priority number two, my understanding, my read, and talking to these families and AAU programs and people that are big decision makers for some of these kids, you got to build relationships better with those guys and make these people feel heard. And that is again, something that I think Pope probably thinks that he can do, and is probably maybe even thinks he's doing well, but hearing the actual feedback in real time is that, like, that's a number one frustration, is like, hey, I don't feel like I'm being heard as a fill in the blank associated with the player, even some on the player side. Like, I think that is something, building relationships and having a personal kind of, Pope has talked about, like, I have these 30-minute meetings with all these players every week. And that's a very important thing about, like, how they feel their trajectory is going. But man, if you're Kentucky and you want to land some of these 5-star kids, if you're going to go pursue the number one recruits in the country and top 5 recruits and whatever, like, you got to be able to know who runs the ship with a lot of these kids and who you have to massage and who you have to, shake hands and kiss babies and do the kind of politicking on that side. Like, there's a lot of importance. And I think that's something that is probably, going under the radar right now that needs to be addressed. So I think that's a big question. I'm glad we kind of dug a little bit deeper on that one, but a great question there from Connor R. This one was actually going to be my Parlour Pizza question of the game. Shout out to our friends at Parlour Pizza. I want you to get this question answered and go through it first, and I'll talk about why I love Parlour Pizza afterwards. So in there, ask any defensive tactics from other teams that Pope should pick up and implement when facing elite offenses like Vandy and Alabama. See Tennessee holding Bama to 73 points this weekend. Is there anything that has jumped out to you that you would like to see addressed?
When it comes to scouting, obviously, even on my level of basketball that I coach, I watch the recent games and I like to see, what did those teams have success with that maybe we can have success with in matchups. But for me, with this team, Jack, a lot of it in those games is the defensive end of the floor is the defensive end of the floor, but a lot of it travels from the other end of the floor too. And if you can execute and make shots and get timely buckets out of sets and set up your defensive pressure and be together, and you're not scrambling like Alabama. Kentucky wasn't shooting the basketball well going into that game, and missed shots against Alabama is danger and doom for you going the other direction. Mm-hmm. Tennessee found ways. Like, I went back and watched that game, and I found 4 or 5 things that Rick Barnes and Tennessee did that I liked offensively, that I was like, man, that's really good. Like, and when you see it, my Twitter feed is nothing but basketball sets and offense and things like that. So that's what my For You page is. And I'm seeing Tennessee pop up a ton the last few days because of the things that they were running and executing against Alabama. So for me, it's not as much tactics on the defensive end of the floor as much as it is Kentucky getting good shots, taking good shots, executing offensively, which then allows them to be set up when they're playing these teams that score the ball at a higher clip. It's not as much about taking possessions away, but maybe your possessions are equal 5-on-5 and you're not playing as much in transition, turning the ball over. Like, those are the tactics that I think that teams that have success against those teams, they're efficient scoring the basketball, they run their stuff, and they're not playing this thing in transition where it's a 3-on-2 or 4-on-3 advantage. Because if you get into those games, that's where Alabama's and these other teams in the league, Jack, they have so much success, and they're going to beat you at that game more often than not.
Yeah. Make Parlour your game day destination, from award-winning pizzas like the Doctor or fan favorite hot honey pepperoni to Parlour's famous house smoke wings and extensive craft beer selection. Parlour has a menu that will please the whole family. Their location on Harrodsburg Road is just a short drive from Rupp Arena. I absolutely love Parlour Pizza and have eaten there, I think, 3 times since this ad partnership, and it's like totally organic, like ad two meals with my dad. Had one over at the in-laws with my wife and their family. So I just absolutely love it. The hot honey pepperoni is amazing. But I think Steven's going to have a poll running, and we're going to pick my next meal at Parlour Pizza. I think fans will, and I would love all of the options that Steven's going to pop up. So I don't really care which one you pick for me. I'm going to enjoy it no matter what it is. But you guys pick that. Shout out to our friends at Parlour Pizza for all they do. We're going to be doing a remote there, Shawn. So make sure you get your tummy ready for it, because Parlour, we're gonna take them for all they got. It's going to be an absolute blast. Shout out to our friends at Parlour Pizza. Let's roll through a couple more of these KS Board questions. Have there been any from Hoochie Man? Have there been any recruits spotted at the games recently, or is Pope punting on this class? Not any from the 26 class. They have gone to visit elsewhere at their games, and just even a couple weeks ago went out to go see Tyron Stokes, but nothing serious to suggest that they're gaining any real traction in 26. But hosting some 27s and 28s, especially locally at Rupp Arena, kind of building some of those longer term relationships, but still waiting to see any sort of traction with 2026 at this stage. I'm not seeing any as of right now of anybody that's on our radar that that we're picking up steam enough to the point of saying like, hey, this is something to monitor. So until that changes, I would not hold my breath on that. Wildcat Wanderer, do you believe Kentucky will pursue Dink Pate seriously for next season's team? Probably not. I think the cost on that one is probably going to be a little too lucrative for what they're going to be looking for. You have the relationship there with Jason Hart. He coached him at the G League, and that's a layup if they want that. But that's also assuming that Jason Hart's going to be at Kentucky next year. And every one of the assistant coaches, Shawn, as you know, they're kind of on I don't want to say year by year, but they're always like, we had Mikhail McLean on this show, who I appreciated the transparency of, hey, my job isn't going to be at Kentucky for the rest of my life. Like I'm always looking for my first head coaching gig. All of these guys want to be head coaches. So I think that, I don't know if you want to dig deeper into that, but just everybody, and I'm sure you can speak as highly as you are on Frederick Douglass, and as much as you'd want to be there forever. Like, every person wants to achieve. You could be a head coach in the NBA one day. Everybody wants to keep achieving more and more when you're in the coaching ranks.
Yeah, they do. And, assistant coaches are, especially the ones that haven't had a head coaching job at the level they're working in before, they're tirelessly working to better their resume. Where, what is the first job? But a lot of it, Jack, is, does the job make sense? And I think with being the ability to be selective when it comes to that first job, for a lot of people, it has to, to matter. Like we've seen over the years, Kentucky have assistant coaches and guys get opportunities that they decide to stay put because job number one wasn't the ideal situation for them to leave a place like Kentucky. But then again, some guys are excited to get that first opportunity and just go right into it. Now, in today's climate of college basketball, if you're an assistant coach and you've got a good opportunity, I think there's probably more incentive to maybe look at staying put, because if you've never navigated the waters of NIL, transfer portal, and all these things as the head man, it's different than it was, 5 or 6 years ago. And, I've been blessed to be able to work under someone in Coach Garvin that's had decades of experience coaching Division I college basketball as a head coach and assistant coach. And he's all the time telling me just about the differences from 5 years ago till now, and how much the game has changed, and the things that you're having to do as college coaches, because obviously that's been something that's been my goal for a while, right? Was to be able to break into that level of college or that level of basketball. But there's so many things now that are different, and you're seeing it across all levels of college basketball. It's a difficult thing to navigate, but at the end of the day, all these assistant coaches, Jack, they're trying to improve their resume because they want that opportunity and that job to show, because in this business, you want to be in the leadership role, and you want to be the guy making the decisions and in the first seat. And Kentucky's got some coaches on its staff that have been there, but they've also got guys that haven't been there. And I think it's a good balance to have.
Yeah, I totally agree. KY Wildcats 22. How are we looking NIL wise for basketball next season? I think in a good spot, but also I think it was pretty alarming. How much pulling they did for this roster where it was a blank check roster of like, hey Mark, you have exceeded all of our expectations for year one. Whatever you need for this year, we'll make it happen. Even to the point of trying to get to the finish line on some guys being able to just say like, hey, we need a couple extra grand, a couple $100,000 here and there to close on this kid. Let's, do you have it? Yes, whatever you need. Even some donors pushing for individual kids and saying, we want that guy. Here's the extra money to close on it. So to go from that to maybe how the season started, I think it was kind of like whoa, this is not what we signed up for or paid for. I think things are getting better and happier, and I think all it takes is seeing how this year ends. Like if they can turn this into a big time run and even just match last season's effort, like they love Pope. Like Pope has done such a really good job. I know people just think I'm anti-current administration or whatever. Totally wrong. I really like Pope, and to his credit, he's done an amazing job of developing those relationships with those people, with the donors and the important people at UK and the alums, and like he's really done a good job of kind of spreading those tree branches and making those grow out further and further internally. That I think that's going to kind of build a longer staying power in Lexington to kind of withstand some of the highs and lows that could come or whatever. So he's doing a good job with those right now, but it also, if the wheels fall off before the end of the season, like that could be a whole different story. So things are in a good spot. They're trending back in the right direction, and a big run could really swing things upward in the right direction where we could see a similar, like, all right, didn't love the roster makeup necessarily. We learned a lot from this roster. How can we learn from that? But also, here's what you need. Jacob Polachek, is Kentucky going to land a 2026 recruit? Great question. That's why you get paid the big bucks, Jacob. Go find that out for us, and we would greatly appreciate that. But very TBD on that one is the best way I can put it. BP Wildcat, how did we get here with JQ, and where does it go in your best educated guess? I can't imagine knee swelling causes him to not be cleared to practice the rest of the season. Obviously, UK could run some cover of this if there isn't a huge desire on his camp's part to get back in there this season. Hard to imagine this is what his UK career would look like. I talked a little bit about it before, but it's very complicated. I think it's a lot of different things at play that I think fans, one thing I just want to doubly stress is fans are using the Shaden Sharp comparison, and it drives me crazy because this kid has been hell-bent on getting on the floor, and he's like, if you're looking at games and they pan to him on the bench and he looks pissed off, it's because he is pissed. Like Jaden is very pissed that he's not playing basketball right now at the University of Kentucky and playing it at the level that he expected of himself. Like this has not been a warm and fuzzy situation for him. He wants to be out there. He wants to be healthy. He wants to be contributing at the level that he thought that would allow him to be a top 5 pick, a number 1 pick. So I think that is something that we need to get sorted out, and probably in short order, just to get some clarity on that. Like it's frustrating. Like everybody involved is frustrating. This is not a Shaden Sharp, like, they're not trying to swindle the program out of millions of dollars. Like that's not what's happening right now. This kid wants to play. The people around him, I think fans are assuming that because the Shaden thing, there were some shady folks around Shaden that kind of pushed him in that direction. That's not the case with Jaden. They would be totally supportive of him playing at full strength at 100%. So it's frustrating. I wouldn't totally just dismiss the possibility of like, oh well, it's done. We're never going to see him in a Kentucky uniform again. I still think that's it. I'm not guaranteeing anything one way or the other, but it's just much more complicated than I think anybody, and it's certainly not anywhere close to the Shaden Sharp or anything people that use the program entirely. Like that's not how things have unfolded or will unfold. So hopefully we get some clarity on that here in the next week or two. Cap fan, what are the chances John Calipari says some version of, quote, Mark is doing a terrific job after Arkansas thumps us on Saturday? Sean, I don't like that question. I don't like it.
I'm not a fan of that question either. I do think that Cal's going to say something positive about Mark Pope and Kentucky leading up to the game. Afterwards, obviously, the result of it will kind of dictate where things go. But I hope that's not the conversation afterward. But I do expect Cal leading up to the game to say something about how Pope has handled injuries, how they've looked better in recent weeks on film, and some things. And I would assume he would probably say something positive.
Yeah, I do. If he says something to that level, it means something has gone terribly wrong for Kentucky. We don't want that. We want him to be bitter and angry and frustrated and all of the above. So let's hope that doesn't unfold. GZE 13. How many of these guys are we tied into on 2-year deals? Kids are playing better, but almost needs to be a mix of these guys and new studs. Going 10 to 12 deep is never good in my eyes, but also to have balance with that depth. Good question, because this has come up more often about guys that, like, who do you want back for next year's roster? Because as this year is still unfolding, next year, as we're talking with recruiting and all that stuff, like, it's still important to talk about, some of these building blocks and guys that you would love to have back. I think the conversations of the next year deals, I think, is a little blown out of proportion. Like, I know for a fact that conversations have happened, are ongoing. Some guys have said, yeah, that's the framework of that deal sounds great. I'd love to come back next year, assuming things are as we kind of hope they are. And there have been some guys that they've heard the first run of numbers. They said, yeah, actually don't love that. Let's regroup at the end of the year, see what my trajectory looks like, what the program's trajectory looks like, and we'll go from there. So I just don't think anybody is locked in. Like, if they agreed to something at the beginning of the year, that it means that there's no way out at the the end of this offseason. I think there's still a lot to play out with how the season goes and all that stuff. But who are a couple of guys that you are looking at as like, hey, that's a must? You got to do whatever it takes to bring him back, Shawn.
I mean, I think Malachi is probably right there at the top when it comes to guys that I want to see back. Now, it's been different for me because up until the last few weeks, we've not really seen Kentucky sustain anything successful. And I know there's a lot of guys that you're not getting back. Aberdeen, Owe, those guys do the graduation. But when it comes to what you'd like to have back, I mean, Jasper's recent run and the recent success that he's had being forced into playing, and Malachi are probably where I would start. Cam Williams is someone that I would like to see as well. I think that those three names are the three that I'm probably at the top with. I think when you get into others and you're talking about Jalen Lowe for another year, there's a high risk there, right? If you're coming off an injury and off a surgery and things like that. You probably got to dive into those a little bit more and think, okay, do I want to run the risk of being back in this situation again a year from now? Which injuries are a part of this. But now when you're talking money and you're talking the things that you're paying for your rosters, there's different discussions that this isn't just a 4-year commitment or a 2 or 3 year commitment with scholarship. This is a year-to-year thing when you're looking at your rosters, and that's all across college basketball. But I think the freshmen, Malachi for sure, and then Jasper. If Jasper can make a jump as a sophomore and he's got a spot in your program and sees it for himself, and Pope sees it as well, I think that's where I probably start.
I think the one that fans automatically go to is Jalen Lowe as the ultimate wild card, because, man, that's a really polarizing kind of flip one way or the other, because we have seen flashes of him. We have all the film that we could need of him at Pittsburgh, but also understanding the availability, understanding that we didn't see the massive shooting jump that we were kind of promised when he led the team in 5-on-5, 3-point efficiency. Some of those things we didn't get a big enough sample size to know if there was a breakthrough coming, but based on what the numbers show, there really wasn't that big of a difference from what we saw at Pittsburgh. And that goes back to what I was saying about I know he was somebody that they had discussed as about a multi-year, partnership at Kentucky, but I don't think that, there was also an out, the way he was trending in the offseason. Kentucky, I know for a fact, was kind of loosely monitoring the possibility of him turning pro, like him being hey, he's good enough to be an NBA guy after year one, kind of having a similar decision that Ortega had to make last go round, that there could be a scenario where he turns pro. That cancels out obviously any 2-year partnership that the NIL agreement when he signed initially would have created. So I just think we're too caught up in like we're locked into anything just because a kid has agreed or not agreed or turned down entirely or whatever. So I think there's still way too much basketball to be played before we're locking anybody into the roster. But Malachi, I think, is a fascinating one, Sean. A lot of fans that kind of brought up the possibility of what happens if Malachi goes pro. Yeah, this is the one that caught my attention from Nolan Mulliken. It would stun me, Sean, if the way Malachi keeps playing, that he is not only on draft boards, but like pushing toward top 20-ish status in the first round. And that would really, really stink in terms of planning for next season and what they kind of hoped would be a multi-year, like a solid year one for Malachi before exploding as an All-American candidate in year two. It'd really stink to not even be able to get the year two out of Malachi.
Yeah, I still think that there's areas to his game that he has to improve. I think he's got to get better around the rim, finishing around the rim. That's not dunking the basketball and those things. So I'm not worried about that yet. Now, if he February, March just has a great run and just goes on a tear here and mixing in double doubles and things like that, then I think now the conversation changes. But the Jalen Lowe topic, just my personal opinion on January 26th, I don't know if I feel comfortable running it back.
Fair.
I don't know if I do. And for me, priority number one for Mark Pope when it comes to establishing next year's roster is I want 2 dudes that I trust running the show at point. Now, that's difficult to do because if you go get an elite dude, it's hard to bring in another guy because then in today's climate of college basketball, option A, they're eating up a ton of minutes. Option B has to be willing to play that role as well. But I need 2 guys on tape and on film that I know can run the show for me if something goes down with number one. And that's probably going to be the primary focus because the last 2 years, point guard play has not point guard play, but the lack of having guys available at point guard has really cost Kentucky. And for much of both seasons. So healthy Jalen Lowe, if I knew he could go the distance with it, I'm all in on it, but it ground's a little shaky with me just because I just don't want to run into next year in a pivotal year, I believe, for Mark Pope and the momentum of this program and not have injuries can happen to anyone. I know they could bring in somebody and it could be the same thing. But there's a lot riding on it. And I feel like having more than one guy. Now, Aberdeen's slid in here and done some things, but I would want to go get 2 guys that I know are point guards that can run the show for me. And is Jalen Lowe one of those? But I believe got to be willing to have another guy beside him is probably part of the conversation.
It's fair. That's a very, very fair, and I don't envy Pope's positioning right now, knowing that he has to make that call. If he can truly, in his heart of hearts, seeing, he kind of gets a do-over in the sense of, okay, you have him in your back pocket. It's put up or shut up time. Did you truly see enough in the summer and in the limited sample size of him actually playing basketball games for Kentucky that he's your guy? That what he's going to cost, because he's going to be expensive. He is not going to take a discount, because I interviewed his dad shortly after the injury and kind of the decision behind all that. And he said, hey, if Kentucky doesn't want him, I know for a fact that there's going to be lots of other schools that do. And that's true. Jalen will be a hot commodity in the portal if he does become a free agent again. So knowing that, Pope has to be right. Like, Pope has to make the right gut call that, no, I loved everything that I saw from him behind the scenes. He was the leader that we needed. He was the playmaker and all around point guard that I know he can be. And if I can get him at full strength the surgery goes well and he can be the player that I saw on film, that I saw over the summer, then I'm pushing my chips in on him. Then, hey, I'd feel a lot better in that decision, knowing that, like, all right, man, you had an out here and you decided to run it back with him. So I'd trust Pope's judgment, but it has to be right. Like, he has to get that one right. That's, as you said, that is a crucial decision with that.
It is, but now I'll say this. I fully believe that Mark Pope is going to look at this roster construction for next year, and probably 80% or more of it, the evaluation is going to be, do you shoot the three well? And that's going to be at multiple spots. I believe he's going to lean back into guys that fit the system from the three-point line. And I believe that's going to be part of the evaluation process, Jack, for a lot of guys. What do you do from three? Can you stretch it? Because I don't know how many 20% three-point shooters he's going to be plugging around on guys next year. I think he's learned his lesson a lot with spacing this year, that adding athleticism, you've got to have guys that are athletically gifted and can also shoot the basketball for you.
Couple of things I like in the chat. Brian Stewart's been like our cheerleader, getting these likes and comments. I thoroughly, genuinely, in my heart of hearts, appreciate you, Brian Stewart, for that. So I agree, Brian. Get these likes up. I appreciate you. And a lot of people kind of talking about recruiting and stuff, bringing up the names with Tyron and Caleb Holt and Jordan Smith and some of those. Christian Collins is still available. The fact that a lot of these guys are waiting to the spring does 100% work. And it being I've been joking about it, but it does work in his favor that Pope now has the rest of the year to fix this season and what has not worked for the team. If he's able to turn this into a massive run by the end of the year, go make some noise in Nashville, the SEC tournament, go make some noise in the NCAA tournament, like, you become a hot name again in the recruiting world, and your pitch becomes a whole heck of a lot easier than it was in some of these early struggles of the season when you were trying to get a kid to commit while you were struggling on the floor. So there's a lot to be said about just like, you don't want any of these kids to commit right now because you're not trending for any of them, but you do have months to fix what has been broken up to this point. So there are still some options out there for him to go land if he's able to kind of get smooth things over. So to his credit, there's time. Only do a couple more of these.
Let me add Colin Chandler to the mix of guys.
Oh, duh. Obviously. Yeah.
That's on me. I kind of cut off to the point guard topic, but Colin Chandler's got to be in there too, just especially the jump that we have seen in this 5-game stretch here, the ability to make shots, clutch shots, and some big defensive plays late in games. Like, Colin's been a guy, Jack, that last year we saw it kind of happen late for him. We didn't see much of it the first couple of months of the season, but you've seen it in January, him hit that stride. I believe February and March version of Colin Chandler is going to be even better than what you're seeing now. He seems to be a guy that as the season progresses, he finds his best basketball. And next year, does it happen sooner than it did this year? Is that the development that we've not seen guys in this program go from freshman to junior to senior very often in recent years? So is that kind of the trajectory that Colin follows? But he's a guy that I want back to. So if you could give me 4 in the 4 that I named, then I believe that would be a great start, because, Jasper shoots it, Cam shoots it, Colin shoots it. That fits that mold that I'm talking about going into next year when it comes to piecing portal and high school guys together.
I would love that group. I'd love for all, and Yelovich. I'm not going to let any Yelovich slander continue on any further. Yelovich belongs in a Kentucky uniform next season as well. Let's see. Why are we so bad at layups? What does Moreno need to do this offseason to make the leap? That's from Sudbury Shore. What do you think, Sean?
Just a lot of rim work, a lot of work at the rim with the contested reps in practice, and working with managers, assistant coaches, whatever the offseason work is. I think getting stronger for him too, and making that jump of weight room from freshman to sophomore year will help him as well. It's not the dunks, it's the finishes in traffic that you're not getting the ball and putting it through the rim. Like, those are the rolling out of pick and rolls. Like I talked a few weeks ago that he does an excellent job occupying a defender and not just space. But now being able to get the ball in traffic and finish through a guy and get a couple of and ones, I think would probably be the next step in his development and his career.
Yeah, I totally agree. A ton of GM questions not on KS Board. Was not expecting all of them. A lot of them just about like, is there any traction? Are we inching forward with any of them? I can find Pete Peterson said just would like an update on GM rumblings. Will Pope get one? Is it more likely to come from the NBA, another school, or outside the sport? Yes, there is traction there, in the sense of like, I know that he has had multiple conversations with multiple candidates this season, this year, this fall. So they haven't, I wouldn't say they've gone perfectly, those conversations. And they have come from NBA, from, basketball, like scouting, kind of those types of circles, basketball circles. They've come from them, not poaching from another college or anything like that. But in just, in terms of the national landscape, look at the NBA level, even in the G League level, is something that, maybe a G League GM looking for a promotion that would be, Nazir Muhammad is somebody that Kentucky fans have been wanting for a long time. I would love Nazi. Obviously, I know they've had some like super exploratory conversations with him, but I think he is dead set on kind of improving his internal standing. He's with Oklahoma City Thunder, but he wants to be an NBA GM, and I think maybe he views Kentucky GM as maybe as a lateral move to where he is right now, because the OKC franchise is just so well run, and there's the future so bright for them that you kind of don't want to give up such a stable position right now. So I just think in general, it doesn't have to be in the La Familia of anything, but their conversations have been had, and I do think that we're trending close. If you were to say, are we closer to having a GM versus not having a GM, I'd say we're closer to having a GM, without saying like there's traction on one candidate that they're getting closer to reaching an agreement on, if that makes sense. Let's start wrapping this thing up, maybe one or two more good ones, and we'll call it a night. Anon, a bunch of numbers, says, why does Pope go away from his regular offense some in games against Ole Miss? He decided the best offense was to feed Moreno in the post. I think that's a great Sean question.
I think a lot of it is obviously dictated by the way that the matchup's going, right? Or do they find some success early in the game doing something? Do they find a matchup that they like? And with the team, Jack, that for the majority of the season hasn't shot it well from three. We went into that Alabama game with Nate Oates talking about the ball doesn't come out of the post when it goes in there. Yeah. So now you're seeing post ups, but is it geared towards just getting the ball inside? Because for a large part of the season, Kentucky wasn't getting downhill off of drives and creating opportunities for shooters. Is that just a post touch to get the ball on the inside part of the floor to then open up some kickouts and some opportunities going inside out? So I'm actually giving Mark Pope a ton of credit, because I do believe this is a group that is very hard to run his system with and to stick with it and do the things that he did last year. Like Amari Williams hasn't walked through the door. Kobe Brea has not walked through the door. Like those were two guys last year that Kobe was making you guard 25, 26 feet on the floor. They've not had that guy this year. Amari was so good seeing the floor, passing, could get downhill and take a guy from the top of the key. Malachi's not that guy right now, and they've not really had that guy all season. So being able to adjust on the fly and kind of make adjustments now early in the year, I didn't think adjustments were being made. And that's why Kentucky was getting down 20. They were losing. They weren't winning basketball games. In recent games and recent weeks, I think it's kind of been a game-by-game thing that Mark Pope is looking at this and saying, okay, what is my attack here? Denzel Aberdeen closing the game and finding success out of ball screens there for a couple of games at LSU, at Tennessee. And, Mo Diabate's energy and effort on the offensive glass and just kind of making bully plays. And then you see post-up touches to Malachi Moreno. Is that just to create some inside-out opportunities? Like those are things that I'm not in those locker rooms, but that could probably be some of the reasons why you're seeing Kentucky do some different things. Because I don't think, Jack, that they've found one size kind of fits all approach to what they want to do, because I don't think he has the guys to run his system consistently top to bottom. and beginning to end, that he's had to kind of mix and match and manage and find ways to win, and credit to them, they have. So whatever it looks like, it might be something different tomorrow night. When you look at a scouting report, what are ways that you can find success against Vanderbilt? What do they think are the ways that they can get some offense? And it'll probably be different than what we saw against Ole Miss.
Speaking of Vanderbilt, give me your best guess from our friends at SeatGeek. What is the get-in price tomorrow night, knowing that it is icy and snowy and disgusting down there in Nashville in the current state of the Vanderbilt program? What do you think the get-in price would be?
The lowest price to get in?
Get in, yeah. You get Stephen Peak range, just as high as you could possibly get.
In that building for this matchup, I'll say with the weather, I'd say an $88, $89 ticket.
You could get 3 tickets for that cost. $28 to get in with our friends at SeatGeek. I mean, that's a bargain. It's a 2.5-hour drive from Lexington. Get your butt down to Nashville and go use our friends at SeatGeek at KSR 10 for 10% off. That is an unbelievable get-in price. I get it. The weather stings. I am right now trying to decide whether I'm making the drive, so I need to be kind of, not be a hypocrite and take advantage of this as well. But my goodness, the prices are totally reasonable. Lower level, even, $39, darn near courtside for $120. So if you want to see a high level basketball game against two, Kentucky 27th in the AP poll today, but two ranked ish programs and quad one matchup, big opportunity for the resume for Kentucky. Get your butt down to Nashville. Use our friends at SeatGeek. SeatGeek, a huge shout out to them. 35 million downloads, #1 rated ticketing app for a reason. 70,000 events, but none more important this week than Kentucky at Vanderbilt. So we love them. We need them. Here you can see with your own 2 eyes. Let's see that 28 smackaroos right there. See, shout out to our friends at SeatGeek and all they do. I have a code for you. Use KSR10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code KSR10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Shout out to our friends at SeatGeek. Maybe one more question and we will call it a night. I just got to make sure it's a good one for you. Oh, Tyler Thompson, what have you learned about Stephen Peak and Zach Gagan on your KSR road trips? Favorite and least favorite quirk? Man, I could have a lot of fun with this one. My favorite thing about Stephen is also my least favorite thing about Stephen with these road trips. When we win games, I could listen to him just yap and spit facts and the importance and the magnitude of all this for hours. And I do. Like, big wins, man, it's just a blast riding back. But I tell you what, man, when we lose games, and usually in heartbreaking fashion, or an injury happens or something out of the ordinary happens and there's a potential conspiracy involved with it, buddy, let me tell you, I would, driving down the highway, opening up that door and jump out is a thought in my mind whenever Steven gets rolling. So I love him to death. And I it's something I like. In real time, I get frustrated at times, but when I think back, I'm like, man, I'm glad to be around somebody that pushes me with passion and constantly like, hey, you have no choice but to be as passionate about this stuff as Stephen Peak when you're around him. So that is a favorite and least favorite quirk from our friends at Stephen Peak. Also, while we're just kind of, and Stephen deserves to jump in here and share his least favorite about me. Like, it's not fair for him to just listen to me talk trash about him. So like he deserves to say what he doesn't like about me as well. He also loves candy.
Let's do it.
I was waiting for him to jump in. He also, Steven, it could be 3:00 in the morning and my guy will find a way to get 2 candy bars, eats more candy than every human being I've ever met in my life. That man will find a way to eat some candy. He's like super skinny. It doesn't impact his metabolism or his weight or anything at all.
That's how I keep the metabolism going.
But he is a candy eater, and I I'm fascinated by his choice on when he decides to eat candy. So, all right, let it right back at me.
Okay. My favorite thing is like how much you care about what you do. I totally appreciate that. Like, Jack will literally like he'll keep us in that arena until they kick us out because he cares that much. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. The thing I don't like is when I need to vent and he puts his headphones in the car.
I will.
I mean, I
will go,
understand
dude.
it. I totally understand it. I just don't like it.
You can yap to yourself. Oh, that's fun. I hope we get to do it tomorrow and we're not snowed out, but we will see on that. Let's see. And I don't think there's anything else that is totally crucial. And if not, if I didn't answer your question, go refresh. I will answer it at some point in the chat. So make sure you go subscribe to KSR Plus, and you have any questions to ask, go to that Q&A and we'll answer a bunch of them. So this was a lot of fun. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys all stayed safe and kept the lights on and didn't have to deal with any power issues or whatever, staying warm and hanging out with your loved ones, whatever that looks like. Hope this week is doing okay for you guys, and hopefully we can bring some bang up coverage down in Nashville for Kentucky taking on. But no matter what, whether we're able to make it to Nashville or not, we're going to be in Fayetteville. That's a big one. We are very much looking forward to that one. So, big week for the Cats. Any last thoughts on what you need to see from the Cats this week?
I think a fast start is very important on the road, especially tomorrow night. And tomorrow night builds momentum and confidence for Saturday, right? How you perform tomorrow. The same thing that happened at LSU. Kentucky was in position going to Knoxville, Jack, in a similar situation, but they had been there before and they had overcome it and won it. So I think getting out to a quick start is vital tomorrow night in that building.
Yeah, totally agree. We had fast start and don't get down by 100 points. Like, just make it worthwhile, make it entertaining. Don't just let the air out of sails just immediately. Like, give us a 40-minute effort, win, lose, draw. Just give us 40 minutes of complete basketball, and hopefully it leads to a big-time victory and a 6th straight victory for the Kentucky Wildcats. So for Jack Pilgrim, for Shawn Smith, for Stephen Peak, and for Sources, I appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.